Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. If you have not already, please click the subscribe button below. I'm super excited to have you here, but before we dive into the video, I would just like to make a quick announcement about Toys for Tots here in Madison, Wisconsin. Please click the link below and make a donation. We would really appreciate it. Okay, so today we have the Mandalorian in his Beskar armor from the Star Wars Black Series, and I am super excited to review this. Been waiting a while. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive right in. Alright, let's go ahead and look at the accessories, starting with Mando's Rising Phoenix, his jetpack. At first glance, this looks very much like what we would expect to see from the series, except for one major thing. The color is way off. The Rising Phoenix should have that Beskar sheen to it that makes it shiny and all pretty, but unfortunately it's kind of this dull, boring, flat, sort of a gray. Oh well, let's move on to his sidearm. Ah, this is much better. It has that Beskar sheen that we would expect. Wait a second. I don't think his blaster is made of Beskar. Oh well, honestly I'm not gonna complain. It looks pretty darn good this way, and it actually looks like it does from the show. I think this is the same sculpt that we saw from the original Mandalorian, but with a different paint finish, and honestly it looks better this way. Alright, let's move on to his main blaster, which also got some upgrades from the original Mandalorian from the Black Series. This rifle actually has a bit of a better sheen to it. It looks more metallic than the original, but otherwise looks to be the exact same sculpt. And that's okay because, to my knowledge, Mando never really upgraded his sidearm or his main rifle during the show, so we shouldn't really expect any upgrades in his weapons thus far. Ooh, let's get on to Mando. Dang, boy. You are looking so fresh and so clean with that Beskar armor. Alright, so this Beskar armor actually looks really excellent. I'm happy with the way it turned out. The cape is a little bit different. Same sculpt, but different color. The strap is, I think, the same color. Maybe it's slightly different color, but overall, very similar to the original Mando. His forearm armor with the whistling birds is very similar, but has that Beskar update. I kind of wish that they also gave us the option to display him with some whistling birds. We also have his rhino signet on his right shoulder, which is a really nice feature. Otherwise, I don't really see any major changes aside from the Beskar coloring to his right arm. Looking more closely at his torso, this really does look quite a lot like the actual Mandalorian from the show, which is really impressive and really nice. They even included some of the detonation charges on his left hip, which is a great detail. They've included this strap all the way on his back plate with a hole so that you can insert the jetpack and or his rifle. It's a little bit tricky to insert it in there, and you'll see it a little bit later. Now, checking out his blaster holder here, you can see it's pretty basic. It's just like the one from the original Mandalorian, and it does actually hold the gun pretty well. Moving on down to Mando's lower half, he still has a crotch, in case you were wondering, and otherwise it's pretty similar to the original Mandalorian. The work around his calves and his boots are a little bit different. I will say that the details look a little bit more crisp. I think they made some updates. The metal canisters on his right leg, his right shin, are certainly a little bit more noticeable compared to the original Mando. But let's transition over to articulation, starting with the head, which has pretty solid movement overall. As for his shoulders, they don't really raise much, but they do swivel quite a bit, and his elbows, they do extend and flex to about 90 degrees and 180 degrees. His wrists are fully rotational. The right shoulder does seem to be a little bit more limited compared to the left, in my opinion. Interestingly enough, the shoulder pads seem to be fairly flexible, like you can bend the corners quite a bit. I'm not sure why they did that. Maybe it's because they wanted to make sure that people could get a little bit of extra movement if they made those a little bit more bendy, but I'm honestly not sure why they didn't stick with the uniform hard plastic. Anyway, his waist has pretty exceptional movement, which is actually really nice, so that way we can kind of twist and turn his body with all sorts of cool Mando cowboy poses and whatever. With regard to his hips, they move out pretty well, and he can also kick back a fair amount, in addition to kicking forward quite a bit. So don't mess with Mando, because he'll karate kick you right in the face. Mando does seem to be fairly symmetric with regard to articulation on both sides, and his knees, they do bend, I think a little bit more than the actual original Mando from the Black Series, which is nice. Whee! Anyway, his ankles have excellent articulation. They bend quite a lot, and you can actually rotate them while they're bent. Alright, why don't we go ahead and play around with his Rising Phoenix jetpack. Now, it's a little finicky. You have to align the strap over the hole in his Beskar armor and plug the jetpack into 2 other holes in order for it to sit nicely on Mando. So, once you've overcome the challenge of attaching his jetpack, you have the luxury of displaying Mando with a mismatched jetpack. Fortunately, it's not that bad. If you do decide to display Mando with his jetpack, be sure to slide the cape off over his head, because otherwise they don't really work together. Alright, next I want to give you guys a side-by-side comparison between Beskar Mando and the original Mando. With the two side by side, we can really appreciate the fact that Beskar Mando is effectively an entirely different figure from the original Mando. The capes are different colors, I'm pretty sure the helmets are even different in sizes, they certainly are different in coloration, the armor on the forearms are different. If anything, the only thing that might have been recycled would be the actual feet and maybe certain pieces of the calves, but otherwise, these two figures are uniquely separate from one another. Well, it's time to wrap up the unboxing review of Beskar Mando. I would certainly recommend that you add Beskar Mandalorian to your collection, even if you're not a Mandalorian fan. For one, he comes with multiple accessories. He comes with the cape, the jetpack, and 2 weapons. That's pretty impressive. And the second reason that you should grab this figure is because the Mandalorian himself is why you should grab this figure. He is an amazing character, the articulation is great, and honestly, just the poses that you can strike with this fella are really fun. Now, this is a really hyped figure, so I'm sure many of you are already thinking, yeah, duh, I'm gonna try and grab him. But seriously, if you have the chance, definitely grab this guy. You do not want to pass up on it. Anyway, thank you so much for your support and watching this video. Until next time, I'll see you in the future.